So that's mega. So based on the logs and the events we saw, we could see that the likely SQL dump files that will be uploaded externally. And then in addition to that, we also find an instance of a remote management tool called AnyDesk installed on the server. This would have given anyone externally access to the server and the data on there. And then further, you can bring in a piece of threat intelligence to it. If you've been doing your research, you would know that threat actors are using platforms like Mega, or using tools like AnyDesk during their attacks. So you can add and say, listen, Ben, we know that both nation-state threat actors, so these are hackers paid by the government, and ransomware groups, often make use of Mega to exfiltrate stolen data, and often use AnyDesk as a persistence mechanism to keep access to the compromised system. And usually if you articulate in that way, then the other party will understand, hang on, so this is a serious risk. You guys know what you're doing. We understand we need to take the necessary steps to contain this. We'll all agree at this stage that this is definitely an issue. All right, so continuing our investigation. So at this stage, we know there's bad stuff happening on the server, but we want to know how did this start? Like, how did it get there? Like, and in my mind, at this stage, there would be three options that could be viable investigation angles that we need to pursue. So first up is the dreaded insider threat. So maybe one of our own developers are doing it. Maybe one of our own people who's got legitimate access to the server was disgruntled. Maybe he's planning on leaving and he's now wanting to steal the production data from that box. Maybe it's one of our internal guys. Another option would be an external exploit. So if this server is exposed to the internet, if it's a web server and it's configured to allow people from the internet to access it, maybe there's some vulnerability on it that a threat actor could have scanned public IP addresses, got to our public infrastructure, saw our server, did a vulnerability scan on it and figured out, listen, but this is something I can exploit. So that's the other option. And then the third option is this that we want to look at is on the own network. So maybe something else on the network was compromised and they were able to pivot across the network to this box. So let's fast forward a bit. We've done our investigation. We've checked our access logs for this box. We've checked for logons. We don't see any evidence of our insider threat doing this. Next up, we've checked our logs. We've checked with the firewall team. We've checked with the load balancing team. We can confirm and we've tested this box doesn't have, isn't accessible from the internet. It connects out, but someone from the internet can't get to it. And then that leaves us with our third option is this threat has come from our own network. And now this is where we dig a bit deeper. So next up, we need to investigate. So how did this threat come onto this box from the network? So let's say we look at our access logs now. We want to see like who connected, what connected to this box. And based on that, we can see this in our network access logs for the system shows that internal IP address connected to it using a service account. That's a bit odd. We do a lookup of the IP address on our internal CMDB, our internal basically dictionary of to say, listen, which IP addresses are linked to which systems and which systems are linked to which persons. And from there, we can see a specific laptop was used. So a specific laptop, that's a legitimate laptop, one of our users connected to the server in the same time frame when the malicious activity started. Based on our logs, we can confirm this laptop is assigned to a developer called Jeff. So at this stage, Jeff is, so there's some engagement of Jeff, like Jeff, but this is your machine who connected to this box, what's going on. And Jeff says, hang on, everybody. I've got an alibi. I know you're looking to investigate me at this stage, but I've got an alibi. My laptop was sitting at the desk when you're saying this malicious activity is happening. Yes, it was there, but I was in a strategy session in a boardroom next door. All these people can confirm it. It wasn't me. It might have been my laptop. It might have been my machine, but it wasn't me. So at this stage, we're going to pivot into digital forensics. So if we want to take a closer look at what happened on Jeff's laptop, this is where digital forensics come in. And my favorite or theme about digital forensics is the theme of uncovering the truth. Okay. So digital forensics is where we say, listen, we have methodologies and processes that we follow to allow us to answer the who, what, why, when, and where questions of an investigation. All right, so typically digital forensic investigations have got 3 phases. Acquisition, so this is where we acquire the evidence. So this could be that we make a forensic copy of a laptop hard drive, we extract data from a server in a forensic manner, we do a duplication of a phone, whatever the media is. So that's acquisition. Second up, we've got examination analysis. This is where we use all our tools to process this data. If you think of the volumes of data that you've got on a normal laptop today, even on just on a phone, we need special tools to allow us to be able to process that data efficiently and quickly and allow us to search the data. And then finally, this is the key thing, and this is what I want to touch on a bit, is the reporting piece in terms of digital forensics. So one of the outputs of digital forensics is reporting. We issue a report at the end that can be used to show what we did and what we found in our investigation. So there's 30 things I want to cover here in terms of digital forensics and apply to you as a security analyst. The first thing is the topic of reproducibility. So the idea behind that is, will someone else come to the same conclusion on the same data that I did as a digital forensic analyst? So I did the investigation, I issued my report. Will someone else get to the same result? So this will ensure that the methods and the methodology I used are forensically and scientifically sound. It's well documented, it's repeatable, and it allows others to independently verify my findings. So if you think of it, if I do an investigation, I issue a report, I need to go to court because someone needs to get maybe arrested because of what they did. The opposing party will need to be able to verify my findings in terms of what I say, listen, this is what happened, and this is why that person is guilty. So something to note here is just like the simple idea of no guessing. You can't make guesses or weird conclusions in digital forensic reports. You can't say, listen, so option A happened, and then skip B, C, D, E, and then conclude this is why F is the conclusion. You need to be able to show that. And I think we lose some of that today in cybersecurity analysis that we do. Oftentimes because we're not skilled enough, oftentimes because we don't understand what's going on, oftentimes it's too technical for us to get understanding, and then we jump to conclusions. So that's something that I want to warn us all against, is to say, listen, what we do need to be reproducible. So if someone else looks at the same alert that you've been dealing with, have the same data in front of them, they should be able to come to the same conclusion than you did. That's the first one. The second one is the idea of write it like you mean it. So this comes from, there's a saying, drive it like you stole it, which is not what we're ever advocating for that, but using the same phrase to say, write it like you mean it. So one of the outputs that I said, or the main output from a digital forensic analysis, is the report that you write. And so for me, writing digital forensic reports at the beginning was painful. It's a lot of work, it's tough. And that quote I got there was commentary on one of the reports I wrote earlier in my career, where someone reviewed it and said, I don't know what this is, but this is not English. So I would guess for most of us on this call, English is not your first language, like me as well. But English is the language that we use, most of us, in business. So the idea, what I'm trying to convey here, is we need to be able to articulate ourselves properly in terms of a written form. So yes, you might not be required to write 50-page reports on a daily basis, but you write notes on incidents that you've investigated, you write emails, you participate in perhaps write-ups from root cause analysis you do. So that's a skill that we need to practice to say, listen, how can I write this efficiently in such a way that someone else can understand it and my message that I'm using is still being conveyed properly. That's the second one. And then the third one is this hourglass. So through the sands of time. So those old enough will remember days of our lives. I think Marlena is still alive, how many years later in days, but that's just a show that's been dragging on for long. And why I'm mentioning this is I want to touch on something quickly in terms of my career. So in 2013, I did a digital forensic investigation assisting law enforcement. So there was a event that happened. We got asked to assist, did the investigation, did the report, issued my findings, and the report was handed over to law enforcement. And then nothing happened, at least from my view. the law enforcement agencies went on, they did the thing, perhaps arrested more people, some people's court cases went on, but I had nothing again. My report was issued. Then 7 years later, not 7 days, 7 years later, I get a phone call from an investigating officer saying, listen, do you remember this? And he reads me the case number. Do you remember this case from 2013? I'm like, no, it's currently 2020. That's 7 years ago. He's like, yeah, okay. But you need to come and testify on this. You issued this report. Yes, yeah, I issued a report. I wrote it. It's mine. I need to come and testify as the digital forensic expert who wrote that report. Then COVID happened in 2020, so the case got postponed by another year, and eventually in 2021, 8 years later, I'm sitting in the stand with a report in front of me, testifying on something I did so many years back. And what I'm trying to say here is, I needed to know at that stage, sitting there, that Jaco from 8 years ago did a proper job. He didn't try and take shortcuts. He didn't try and fudge facts. He followed the correct forensic processes. And now 8 years later, I'm sitting there testifying on my own report. So, and what I'm trying to convey here to you guys, so again, not all of us might be called to testify in cases so many years later, but we all work on incidents perhaps, or we all do things in terms of cybersecurity that's going to persist. There's going to be a log of what you're doing. There's going to be email trails of what you wrote. And the idea behind that is to do the hard work, to make sure what you're doing is correct, not to, like I said earlier, jump to conclusions, jump to assumptions. Do a solid and investigative work, because years later, months later, that can come and bite you. If you work on a ticket now and you close it as a false positive and you know you didn't do a proper job analyzing that, it might be that that is a threat actor on your network, and 3 months later, we detect him in another way or form, and someone will go, but hang on, let's look at the logs. Jaco did the analysis on that ticket. He closed it as a false positive. Jaco didn't do a proper job. So that's what I want to touch on in terms of digital forensics. So if we go back now to our late logistics story, remember, we've got Jeff, our developer, and his laptop, right? So we've now rolled digital forensics. We've extracted the needed information. We've worked through the night. We've analyzed it. We've processed it. And we've got some findings on the laptop. On the laptop, we looked at it. We said, hang on. So this is what happened. We can see that Jeff's laptop connected out to GitHub. So as you all might know, GitHub is a developer platform where you can synchronize your code. There's a lot of code being hosted on GitHub. So Jeff's laptop connected out to GitHub, downloaded a code repository. On his machine, he compiled that. He's a developer. That's interesting. Well, don't know why he did that. He compiled that code. When this code ran on his PC, it connected out to an AWS S3 bucket, a cloud storage bucket hosted on AWS. And that, again, pulled down and downloaded something bad. In this case, we've got base64 encoded malware. When it gets back to his machine, it's decoded by the code he downloaded from GitHub. And boom, what you've got a rat, or let's say Cobalt Strike, running on this machine, allowing a third actor to control that machine remotely. All right. What adds to the issue here is, through our investigation, we could determine that our good friend Jeff has had his security tools on his laptop disabled. And this is something that's more common than you would think, where oftentimes you've got developers or people doing high performance work on their machines complaining about, hang on, but all those agents, you want to install the EDR agent, you want to install a DLP agent, you want to install this and that on my machine. These things are making my machine slow. So they go and they get those agents disabled. So in Jeff's case, he got his EDR agent disabled. So there was no alerting going to happen from his machine. And to make things work worse, our friend Jeff is a local administrator on his machine. So he's got admin rights. So when the third actors compromise his machine with this, what happened, they pretty much had local admin on his machine already without too much effort. So this is now where we need to try and build this entire picture, what happened. And this is often, so you might get to this by further analysis, looking at Jeff's browser history, looking at application logs on his machine, or a simple conversation with Jeff might lead to this finding. So remember, we've got Jeff, he's a developer, he's got admin rights on his machine. And what transpired is the following. So Jeff, being a developer, he's got an active LinkedIn profile. He was approached by LinkedIn by someone who said he's a recruiter from a big financial organization in the United States, and he saw Jeff's profile. It looks like a very promising candidate. Jeff want to come interview for a position they've got. Jeff said, sure, this looks like a great opportunity. And what had then happened is the recruiter said, cool, that's fine. Let's chat on Telegram. So we'll move the conversation over to Telegram. And on Telegram, I'll share you the details. And this is where then the recruiter shared the GitHub link with Jeff and told him, listen, Jeff, this is a coding test. We're going to share code with you on GitHub. What we want you to do is to download that code, run it on your machine, find the bugs in the code. And once you find it, you send it to us, and then we'll use it as a performance assessment for you. In this case, this is a legit scenario in terms of this is actively happening today by threat actors doing this to target organizations, using fake LinkedIn profiles as recruiters to try and get prospecting employees to run malicious code on their systems and then such infect the network, get access to the network, steal data, exploit data, run ransomware operations. All right. So from this, I want to move into what is called threat hunting. So basically hunting for evil on your network. All right. So threat hunting typically has got 3 phases. All right. So there must be some stimulus. So stimulus is something that's going to trigger your hunt. So this is the reason why we are doing threat hunting. So stimulus could be maybe there's been similar incidents happening. So the specific type of incident is happening in an organization. We want to say, listen, but if we're detecting this, maybe more is happening. So from that stimulus, say that, or we've read a threat intelligence report saying that some threat actors are using LinkedIn and Telegram to target our employees and want them to run bad code. So from that, you've got a stimulus, you build your hunt, you say, that's cool. We're going to investigate now. We're going to look at specific logs that we can. You don't always need new tools to do this. You can say, listen, cool, what logs do we have? What can we extract from our current SIEM, from our EDR, these other places? Then once we've done an investigation, there's an outcome. Sometimes your outcome is badness. Sometimes you find bad actors on your network already that you wouldn't have found with your traditional security tools. Other times you get nothing. You say, listen, we've done this exercise, but we didn't find the bad guys, which is also good because that gives you some sort of assurance. Say, listen, we've run this test, we haven't found anything. In other cases, you identify issues. You identify not necessarily malicious activity, but you've identified non-compliance. Like in Jeff's case, you might figure out or find, listen, but this guy's got local admin and his security tuning is disabled on his machine. That's something that needs to get fixed. The 2 things that I think is applicable to every security analyst, referencing threat hunting, is the idea that if you're dealing with an incident or if you're reading a report, let's say there's a report of a company that got compromised and there's details on how this company got compromised. The question is, what you should ask yourself is, can this happen on our network? So in Jeff's case, in this lake logistics scenario, is to ask yourself, listen, can this happen on our network? So is it possible for our employees to get targeted on LinkedIn? Yes, of course. You don't have control of the LinkedIn profiles. Is it possible for them to download malicious code on GitHub? Maybe. GitHub is usually allowed because organizations are using it. Is it possible for malware to be downloaded by Cbucket? Things that you can ask is like, do our developers have local admin rights? Is our security tooling disabled? Can it be disabled? Will we know about it? And then also to say, listen, if we look at AnyDesk or Mega, like, is there anything that's going to alert us if large volumes of data is flowing out to a cloud storage provider, or if remote access tools are installed on a machine? So that's a can it happen. So that's something that you will know based on your organizational knowledge that you've got. And then the other piece of this is, has it happened? So if this has happened, where do I need to look? So if someone has been uploading data to a cloud services provider that we didn't get alerted, where would I go look to see that? So can I go hunt through our proxy logs for uploads to cloud storage providers? So that's threat hunting. And then the last thing I want to touch on based on this, and then I want to, the last thing we're going to touch on is threat intelligence, and then we're going to move on to a few minutes of questions from you guys. So threat intelligence, the idea of knowing the enemy. So what are threat actors, hackers, bad guys out there doing currently that we as defenders should know about? And well, I want just to highlight 3 levels of threat intelligence that we should deal with, because the idea of threat intelligence is not for you as an analyst to just consume all this knowledge and not do anything about it. There needs to be an output with this threat intelligence data that you might be consuming. So 3 levels to think about this is at a strategic level, at operational level, and then finally at a tactical level. So strategic level is the people that's making decisions, the executives and the policymakers. So what do they need to know about what's going on in terms of the threat landscape to make the correct decision? So this is maybe your CIO, your CISO, your CRO, your board members. So in this case, for a late logistics attack, they should know that from a threat intelligence point of view, listen, but threat actors are using employment lures to target our employees. They usually go after high privileged users like developers because they know they would have admin rights. And then the output of that could be, listen, cool, so we need to put in a security awareness plan to notify our employees of that. So that's at a strategic level. Then in the middle, we've got operational level. So this is where we say, listen, these are the analysts that need to translate the strategic objectives that we've got into practical actions. So this is typically your SOC managers, your incident response managers, mid-level management to say, listen, what do we need to do? Do we need to say, listen, our teams need to go hunt for and block remote access tools on our network? Do we need to monitor and block for cloud cloud providers? What do we need to do about that? And then final tactical level. So at a tactical level is things like ISCs, indicators of compromise. Like what is the bad IP addresses, domains, file hashes associated with threat actors that are known that we can then use to block an alert? And this is also then to say, listen, we need to equip our analysts that's working the incident to know what they're dealing with is linked perhaps to a threat actor or to a specific activity based on that. And then the final thing in terms of threat intelligence is this idea to consume less and comprehend more. And the reason why I'm saying this is there is so much data available to you today. And not just, so if you have got a threat intelligence capability in your organization, you might get threat feeds, reports, these other things, which is all good. But just from an open source point of view, there's so many blogs, YouTube talks, conference talks, Twitter feeds that you can follow, write-ups, research papers that gets published publicly that you can read and apply and share. And what I want to just touch on this is to say, so consume less and comprehend more. So don't try and read it all and don't get to the space, the place where you say, listen, cool, I've read it, I understand how that North Korean threat actors are going after Bitcoin exchanges and they're using that to fund their nuclear program. I've got that, but how does that apply to us? Does my company deal with Bitcoin? What do we need to do? Do we have the right things in place? How does these North Korean threat actors operate? What tools are they using? What tactics are they using? How does that apply to my organization? And then finally, in closing, I want to touch on something quick, is an output and hopefully a tool that you guys can use from my side. So this is something I call the Stockfell Cyber Quiz. For those in South Africa would be familiar with the word called Stockfell. So Stockfell is where you pool money together, usually in a community setting, and you say, listen, we're going to use this money for a specific project. So in this case, I call this SOCFEL. So SOC for Security Operations Center. And just the idea that we can pool knowledge together via this. So what I'm currently running on SOCFEL is a weekly cyber quiz. And what we do with this is to say, listen, I pick 10 of the most interesting stories that happen across the week and build a fun little quiz about it. So it's a nice way. It takes you a few minutes to do, to just get a reminder of what happened in the past week and what is there for you to learn from it. So together with this, there's a newsletter that goes out every week if you sign up, and you can get links to the stories, to the actual research, that you can read the fuller papers. So as a final test, and then we can do some questions, is this. I'll ask you the question. This is from this week's quiz that's currently live, and then you can answer it in your head for now, and we'll see if you got it right. So there was a report from a research entity called Insect Group. They're part of Recorded Future. So they released a report that said this was the annual malicious infrastructure report. So this is a report that details how threat actors are using malware in infrastructure for that. So in the report, they listed the top African countries. So basically saying which African country had the most malware victims based on what they tracked. So your options are as follow: Angola, Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa. So what do you think? There's no time to check the chat for now for this, but thinking ahead, this answer surprised me. So the correct answer is not Nigeria. The correct answer is not South Africa. The correct answer is not Kenya. The correct answer, according to their research, is Angola, which was a massive surprise to me for various reasons. Next question, final question, is Microsoft alerted to a malvertising campaign. So this is campaigns where threat actors are putting adverts up, and these adverts are actually serving malware instead of, I don't know, cheap stuff you can buy from Temu. So Microsoft alerted to a malvertising campaign pulling malware from GitHub. So again, same type of vein we did with our late logistics scenario. So via what did users receive the malicious ads? Where did users get these malicious ads? So your options are QR codes at airports. People have been warning, don't just scan QR codes. Right-wing news websites based on the US political environment currently, that might be something. In Facebook ads, is it Facebook ads that you see and you click on it, it's actually malware? Or is it on illegal streaming sites? Correct answer is illegal streaming sites, yeah. And the reason why I want to highlight this is for you as a security analyst, if you read this, you can say, okay, hang on. So Microsoft has now raised a risk here to say, listen, if we allow our users to access illegal streaming sites, so never mind the fact that it's illegal and it's copyright issues that's going to go on there, but also there's malvertising campaigns running on illegal streaming sites. So that also just helps you to articulate the risk to the powers that be to say, listen, we need to block these sites on our proxy, because not just are users on a network using this to view illegal content, but they're also most likely going to get infected by malware via this. So as we go to the questions, so two things. You can find me on LinkedIn. That might be the easiest way than to share an email address. So find me on LinkedIn, Jaco Swanepoel. There's a few Jaco Swanepoels in the IT world as well, but you'll find the right one. You'll see the Swanepoel logo somewhere in my profile. So find me on LinkedIn, and then also go do the weekly Swanepoel quiz, www.swanepoel.com/quiz. There's a new quiz every Friday for you to do. So thank you very much. I believe we're going to be facilitating a few questions.
Thank you, Jaco. What an excellent presentation. I think the best digital forensics and incident response presentation I think I've ever sat in. So thank you so much. I loved it from beginning to end, and I can see the students did too. Lots of applause coming your way. Aside from Swanepoel, I have to say, I think you are the author of the funniest cybersecurity video I've ever seen as well. Your SOC video with Terry in it. I think I'm going to post it on the SANCS website tomorrow. You guys are all going to have a look. I still laugh every time I watch it. And it's great. So we're going to open for questions. Tuso, you're up first. I've enabled your mic. Tuso Mokhatle, you can go ahead and ask your question. Just unmute your mic. Tuso? Okay, I'm going to move on to Immaculate Sittingile. Immaculate, you can ask your question. Just unmute your mic. What's happening here? Okay. Immaculate, you there? Okay. Chungu Musawi, would you like to ask your question, please?
Hi. Thank you very much, Noel. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. And thanks, Jaco, for a very informative presentation that was very innovative for some of us non-technical people. My question is just the interlink between a network security engineer versus a cybersecurity professional. How do those two interlink, and can you do the one without the other? How does this differ in the incident response? Thanks.
Yeah, so it's part of it should be part of the same wider team. So typically your network security guys will look at things like, it depends on how the organization is set up, like maybe they manage the proxy, which is how we block stuff that's going to go out. How do we block bad stuff coming in? They might be looking at the WAF. So if we've got applications sitting on internet, so what rules do we have to protect those applications? Looking at DDoS protection, looking at network access control. Can someone just plug something into the network and get access to our network? So those are typically the things that a network security engineer will do. And it's crucial for that to be interlinked with what, let's say, the incident response team is doing, or knowing what the SOC is doing, because typically you have the security engineers that configure the platforms, the rules. The alerts will then go through to the SOC to deal with. So there's a very close link between the two, because if those two are segregated, if those two are working in silos, you've got one team setting up alerts and another team dealing, maybe get flooded with false positives the whole time, and we're not finding the bad guys. Or we're not giving the right feedback to the network security engineers to say, listen, this is what you need to do. So there's a different link between the two. There's a synthesis, because you can't say, I'm a network security engineer, I don't need to know what threat actors are doing, because how would you then know what is the right policies to apply to your organization's protection infrastructure? So it's very important that both those areas work together. And also, as a network engineer, it's not a lower end job, if you want to call it that, compared to a hotshot SOC analyst or incident response analyst. It's equally important.
Thank you, Jaco. Next question is from Tsietsi Majele. Tsietsi, you can go ahead and unmute your mic and ask your question. Tsietsi.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you very much for this wonderful session. We really learned a lot from this training. So I just want you to maybe assist us, maybe some recommendation in terms of some of the tools that we can use when you do the digital forensics. I think that will help from us. Thank you.
So in terms of digital forensics, so there's a lot of, one of the challenges is that the tooling are usually expensive. So it's usually like proper license-based. Like if you think of things like Encase, FTK, Magnet Forensics, they've got a tool called Axiom, which is great. Like on mobile forensics, you've got Cellbrite and these type of things. Those tooling are usually expensive, so not something you can just go swipe a credit card and purchase usually. So that's on the one hand. However, there's a very active digital forensic community on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on various places which are building tools, building scripts that you can use, building open source processes that you can use. SANS has got something called a log to timeline and Plaza that you can use to process data, and all open source tech. So that's something. So what I would suggest is SANS is a great resource. So SANS, the US Training Institute. So they've got various paid for trainings that you can do. They're all relatively expensive because it's US dollar based. But that being said, there's a lot of free resources. A lot of their conferences post-COVID are streamed online. You can access that for free. You can view it. They've got a lot of like PDF guides in terms of cheat sheets. What do you need for digital forensics? What do you do? What do you do for incident response? These type of things. So I would say go into SANS, create yourself a free account, get on the website, go look at the free resources. There's various guides in terms of that, and they also then will link you to talks where people will come and discuss this. And this is a free tool that I've built that you can use to parse browser forensic artifacts or things like that. So yeah, that would be a good point.
Thank you, Jaco.
Okay, thank you.
From Anonymous, I'm going to read you the question. If a security incident occurs during a major holiday or weekend, how do you assemble and mobilize the incident response team?
So firstly, you make sure your phone is off when you're on holiday, that they can't reach you. No, so that would fall in the preparation phase. So typically most organizations will have, depending on size, oftentimes you've got a 24/7 SOC that runs. So you've got people working shift 24/7. That's going to be working through the night and pick these type of things up. but other companies maybe don't have the resources or the people to be able to do that. So if you don't have, oftentimes what we'll have is you'll have some sort of on-call registered. So listen, call. So Jaco might not be working the weekend, but I've got my phone on me. So if something happens that someone finds out, they can phone me and they can hold with me. We can spin up the incident response team. Or there's various people doing smart things in terms of to get integrations from your security tooling into Telegram to say, listen, cool. So I might not be in front of my PC, but I'm going to get a Telegram message from my proxy that's going to tell me, listen, some malicious IP address just tried to connect to us. So that's something you can definitely look at. And then maybe just on the incident response retainers, it's also a good thing that companies also usually look into if they don't have necessarily the people to foot the function. Is to say, listen, we've got an agreement, and this is important. It needs to be beforehand. So if you've already got a security incident, now you start trying to phone security providers on Easter weekend on the Sunday morning, who's going to assist you? You're going to struggle. So if you've got a retainer with a company beforehand to say, listen, we know this is the number we're going to phone day, night, come rain, sunshine, whatever, and they're going to pick up and they're going to help us. That's also a good thing to put in place.
Okay, thank you for that. Very interesting information there. We've got time for one last question. Chanda, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Thank you very much, sir, for that lovely presentation. You are a genius. My question is, how do you design a containment strategy for an APT that has deeply embedded itself in a hybrid cloud environment, considering the attacker may have illegitimate credentials and is using corrupted channels?
Thanks, Chanda. You flatter me, and then you give me the most difficult question of the day. So let me take a stab at it. So that is a maybe let me touch on this. So if you've been reading Threat Intelligence Report lately, like there's a lot of talk currently that they're saying identity is a new perimeter. So what this means is threat actors are going after identities. So if someone can get access to my corporate account, they can then use that to log in, and then for whatever who's looking at the logs, it's Jaco doing it. So it's Jaco connecting to the system, it's Jaco accessing the data. But meanwhile, it's a threat actor that's got my credentials. And also in the world we live in, especially post-COVID, most of us have got the ability to work remotely in some way or form. So we need to allow that. So that's something. So there's a lot of work from a security point of view being done for identity protection. To say, listen, how can we detect that this is Jaco's account, it's his username possibly being used, but it's not him. So there's like the simple things that you can do is to say, hang on, impossible travel. Jaco logged on here from an IP address from Johannesburg, and the next moment Jaco's account logs on from an IP address in Switzerland. That's impossible to do. So that's a simple one, but there's also a lot of other things that's going on in terms of what you can do to make sure that this activity from this account is actually from the person who that account is assigned to. And then also if we're talking about heavily embedded, so you've got a threat actor that's on your network, he's hiding away from your tools. Two things. One is that's where threat hunting would come in to say, listen, cool. So what can we do in that situation? If we suspect that, what would we look for? What is the type of logs? What's the type of anomalies we'll try and find? And then lastly, you've got tooling that looks at end user behavior analysis to say, listen, so Jaco usually works 8 to 5. No, okay, that's a lie. Jaco usually works 9 to 3. And then, so Jaco usually works these hours, and we know every now and then he might log out at night and do stuff, but he doesn't work on Friday nights. However, now this activity with Jaco's account on a Friday night, your EUBA tool will say, listen, this is an anomaly. We'll need to raise a note. Now suddenly Jaco's account is accessing a server that he's never touched before. This is another anomaly. Let's raise a note. So there are tooling that's looking at those type of things that you can employ across your logs to say, listen, let's find those little anomalies. And I'm sure in the age of AI and ML and everything, it's just going to get easier and better to be able to parse those logs and detect that type of activity. Thanks.
Jaco, thank you. I think this was an incredible lecture. I think we all learned a lot, and we'd like to thank you for coming onto SANCS and sharing this with us. It was immensely beneficial for myself and the students. And thank you for giving up your time and for supporting SANCS. We really value this. To the students, I'd encourage you to go and have a look at SOCFEL and take part in it. It's great fun and a good learning curve. And watch out for Jaco's video tomorrow. I'm going to pop it up on the SANCS site. And with that, I think you have all earned your dinner time for the day. Thank you for attending all these sessions. It was great to see you, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow. Yes, Emma.
There is a Mentimeter that we have created for only those who want to stay. It's completely not mandatory, but if you guys would enjoy it, I will share it quickly now.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Noel, and thank you so much, Jaco.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the great questions as well. And yeah, see you online.
Cheers, Jaco. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Okay, let's do the Mentimeter.
So let me know if you can see my screen.
Not yet. I'm still seeing Jaco's.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, it's
How about now?
changing. Yeah. You can just make it bigger.
Yep. Okay. Perfect. So if you guys want to join me at menti.com and use the code 88764370. I wonder why it's. Do you guys not see it in the full presenters mode?
No, it's
Okay.
quite small.
Okay, let's try that again. I guess presentations today are just sharing screens. It's not helping out. Okay, I'm gonna try and share it on, or actually,
I can keep the microphone.
yeah. Okay, yeah, if we just want to do it with a small screen, or is it an issue for people? Because people are, oh, it's frozen?
Yeah, we'll be on.
Okay. We will transfer it over. My colleague Elton will.
For the rest of you, so long, you can just go and enter mentimeter.com. And the code here, thank you, we can see that it's full view, is 8876-4370. 8876-370.
All right, can my screen be seen, and can you see my mouse and everything?
We can. Thanks, Elton. We've already got 38 replies there.
Yes, no worries at all. So the first question, so I'll give you a few more minutes because of the technical difficulties. You can see the code there at the very top, 88764370 on menti.com. So I'll give you a few more minutes, or not a few more minutes, I'll give you around 1 more minute to join, and then we'll start going through the questions. I already see that some of you are already in and answering. All right, I think we'll carry on. I think you can join partially on the way through as well and just continue from where we are. So it's not going to be an issue if you join a bit late. But yeah, so for the first question, how can artificial intelligence AI improve cybersecurity defenses? Answer A, by automating threat detection and response, has the most answers. And it is, in fact, it is the correct answer, but for whatever reason, it's not showing that it's correct.
Press enter.
Press enter. Great, thank you. Yeah, there you go. Correct answer. So for the next one, what is a potential risk of using AI in cybersecurity? Thank you for your answers. The majority is again correct. It is indeed answer B. Cybercriminals can also use AI to develop more advanced threats. Question 3. Which AI-driven technique is commonly used for detecting anomalies in network traffic? Quick answers there, and yeah, it's kind of in the name. Machine learning-based anomaly detection was the correct answer. Next one, why is aviation cybersecurity critical to modern air travel? Yep. Strong answer here for A, and it's indeed correct, because cyber attacks can disrupt flight operations and endanger passenger safety. Next question, which of the following is a common cybersecurity threat to aviation systems? A bit more diversity in the answers this time, and the correct answer is indeed D, all of the above. Next question, what is one way airlines and aviation authorities protect against cybersecurity threats? Quick answers on this one, and it's the correct one, implementing multi-layered security systems, including encryption and intrusion detection. Next question, what is the first step in an effective cybersecurity incident response plan? Yep, there we go. Before you can solve a plan, you need to recognize the problem. Identification of the incident is indeed the correct answer. Which of the following is not a phase in the incident response lifecycle? "100% unanimity here. That's correct. Blame assignment is not part of the incident response lifecycle. Why is it important to conduct a post-incident review after a cybersecurity event? Yep, quite unanimous here as well. To identify lessons learned and improve future responses is indeed the correct answer. What role does digital forensics play in incident response? Correct. Answer A, it helps analyze and understand how the attack occurred. And that's all of our Mentimeters. I will now be handing it back over to, oh, my camera was off. Handing it back over to Emma to finish up the lecture.
Well, thank you, everyone, thank you so much, everyone, for staying a bit later. It's about 10 minutes after. Thank you for participating. It's always great to see such a wonderful and enthusiastic group that participates actively in the questions and as well as the Mentimeters. I hope you guys do enjoy it. And thank you again, Noelle, so much for helping host today and moderating the questions. It was a bit of a struggle today with the presentations, but now that we've identified the issue, we know how to go and move forwards, and hopefully this session was easier. So thank you so much again, and everyone have a good evening.
Yes, go and have your dinner and enjoy it. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Goodbye, everyone.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Ciao. Bye. Thanks, Emma.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Alton.